Yo, 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 guess who's back? Welcome back to the Mortgage Mayhem where real estate meets real talk. I'm your humble host, G Money, and today we're bringing you headlines shaping money, markets, mortgages, and the culture. Today we've got a packed lineup from Jerome Powell's warning on unemployment cracks, the Gen Z cashing out on their retirement funds, to shocking details about Social Security's future. And of course, I'll be giving you the four never before shared mortgage and real estate hacks to help new and seasoned investors get the edge. Plus, today's deep dive is on Sachse Construction, what they're building, and why it matters to your portfolio. So let's get into it. Before we get started, we got a little house cleaning we got to do. Let's go.
Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast, where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. We break down the deals, the drama, and the data behind the scenes of real estate finance, with a twist of street smarts, savvy, and a touch of madness. Before we dive in, here's the deal. The Mortgage Mayhem podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions.
All right. Hopefully, you got the gist of that. Always reach out and get some extra set of eyes on whatever it else, professional eyes on whatever it is that you're looking to do investment wise. All right. All right. So let's jump into this thing, guys. I hope everybody had a great, weekend this past weekend. The month is almost over. Kids are back to school good, so everybody should be on their 4-quarter grind. But anyway, let's get into it. This is our 30th show, guys. So we just kind of moving along here. Chopping these trees down, making sure we get this information out to the culture. And it's just my privilege and my privilege to be able to be the one that, give you a little something on every Tuesday that hopefully can help you in some kind of significant way. All right. So let's pull up our first, where we have issues here. What is going on here? All right, hold on for 1 second, folks. We got some issues here. I don't know why and what's going on, but it won't allow me to get to my stuff. Oh, okay. I am so sorry, folks. Give me 1 second. I got to pull up something for you guys real quick. All right. For whatever reason, it's not allowing me to do what I need to do. So hold on, folks. We're going to get into this in 1 second. I apologize. Let's see. All right, let's go here. Okay. Okay. All right. We're having some tough technical difficulties here. My media assets is not allowing me to do what I need to do. Hold on for 1 second, folks. Here we go. That was crazy. Okay. Let's talk about our first order of business here. Let's bring up this guy. So the Fed Chair Jerome Powell says minority and younger generation unemployment is going up, and it's a sign that the Labor Party is weakening. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has raised concerns that rising unemployment among minority groups and younger workers is an easy early sign of weakness in the U.S. labor market. Speaking after the Fed's recent decision to cut interest rate for the first time since December 2024, Powell noted that groups most vulnerable to economic downturns, such as Black workers, Black women, and Generation Z job seekers, are experiencing higher jobless rates than the national average. Data underscores his warnings. Black women's unemployment climbs to 6.7% in August, well above the overall rate of 4.3%, while younger workers face a hiring slowdown that economists describes as a crisis. Entry-level positions, which are often the gateway for Gen Z into the labor force, are shrinking as companies scale back hiring amid economic uncertainty. The Fed has highlighted these disparities as critical indicators. When minorities and young people struggle to find work, it tells us that the broader labor market is losing steam, Powell explained. Policymakers view this as not only a challenge for equity, but also a leading signal that job market resilience is fading. The implications are significant. While headline unemployment remains hysterically low, a cooling at the margin should foreshadow broader job losses. Analysts suspect the Fed may pursue additional rate cuts through 2025 in a bid to stabilize the economy. Economists warn that without targeted actions, younger and minority workers risk long-term damage to earnings and career path. Advocates are urging both policymakers and employees to strengthen support systems before labor markets cracks widen into a downturn. Okay, let's chat about this for a second. All right, so basically, the Feds is just speaking truth to what's going on. A lot of times folks don't really understand that you know us people of color make up a major part of the workforce. So when we get into a situations when 300,000 Black women are losing their jobs, all other type of Black jobs are, or Black folk or people of color are losing jobs from Hispanics and and other people of color who may be experiencing job losses, is really all credited to what's going on in the new administration, right? They're the ones who are, trying to make it seem like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread for the economy, but we're having these kind of issues, right? And it's one of those types of things where they're looking at the data, but because it's people of color, I think it's less of a red alert, all hands on board, let's get this market to the point where everybody's thriving, everybody's providing for their families. I just don't think it's that time where people of color and what they're doing in the economy is of you know you know of the new administration's their way of making sure that it's an even playing field for everybody. I don't think that's what their intentions are. I think we're just back to not just the whitewash of history, but the whitewashing of jobs here in the United States as well. So unfortunately, we as people of color, we got to figure out a new way of going about our business. We've been here before. It's not as bad as it was in the 70s, 60s, and things start to turn around late 70s, early 80s for people of color. But right now, it's kind of like we're going back to that where we got to fight for everything that we go out and try to get. And it's just not going to be easy for us, but we got the backbone, we got the know-how to get in whatever lanes we need to get in to make sure that we're able to provide for our families and continue to build generational wealth, because this is really the first generation of people of color for real that's been able to do that. So let's not worry about these statistics and these numbers. We know how to go and get this money on our own now. We don't really need nobody to help us to do that. So we got to wake up in the morning and understand that, and make sure that each and every day we have some form of a game plan where we can go out and do just that and not have to rely on somebody else to feed us. We're to the point now where we should be able to feed ourselves. I mean, we had ample amount of time to understand that nothing's going to be given to us. We should be out here creating our own opportunities, because it is a massive amount of opportunities out here. You just got to grab your bootstraps and not be afraid to jump out there on faith and make some things happen for you and your family. All right, so we'll keep an eye on Brother Powell. He seems to be, even-handed. He seems to have his eye on the prize and not just doing knee-jerk reactions like everybody else that's out here in the marketplace and in this new administration. So I like the fact that Powell's easing the interest rates, dropping rates like he is, and not just doing it willy-nilly. He's doing it strategically and smart. He's being smart about it. So we'll keep our eye on Chairman Powell and see what he does as the months come ahead of us here in the near future. All right. So let's keep it moving. All right. Okay, so Shuddy Stowe shows 63% of Gen Z workers are already tapping into their retirement savings to make ends meet. A new study by Payroll Integration reveals that nearly half of Gen Z workers, that's 46%, with the oldest being around 28 years old, have already dipped into their retirement funds. Among those, 42% used the money to tackle debt, while another 25% needed it for urgent costs like medical bills, housing, or car repairs. All right, so once again, we got to understand the times that we're in. We have to figure out a way to get to these bags on our own and not have to depend on a company, corporation to make sure, that we're good. If we got to be at 28 already dipping into our retirement accounts to take care of things that jobs or side hustle should be able to handle, then that's going to be an issue. You're not going to have having a retirement if you're already, because every time you dip into it, they charge you a certain percentage in order to get your money. So you're paying folks to get the money that you've earned, compared to figuring out an alternative way to make money so you can provide the things that you need. So if car breaks down, rents, mortgages, whatever the case may be, because the job just ain't doing it, and it's just what the definition of job is, just over broke. Then this is, once again, we got to get creative, folks. I don't know how to tell you, this is not the world that we once knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This is a new world. And what the world is saying to us people of color is to get in where you fit in, because we're trying to leave you behind. And if we allow that to happen, then that's exactly what's going to occur. We're going to be left behind. So I would say you got to sit your ASS down and come up with a plan that's going to allow you to be out here and do the things that you need to do to be successful, and stop, running around having to put yourself back, backwards in moving forward, because the small amount of time, they're saying 28 is the oldest. So most the typical person don't really be able to enter the job market for real until what, 25, 26. So you ain't even really had enough time to really put away anything in retirement, and you're already dipping into that basket. So we got to get creative. We got to be smart about this, because if not, you're going to find yourself in a situation that you're not going to like. You're going to get to the end of life. You're not going to have retirement. It's just a vicious circle that you don't want to end up putting yourself in. You know what I'm saying? So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But Gen Z, it's, hey, you got it great out here. It shouldn't even really be no reasonings why you don't have what it takes. You shouldn't have to be worried about dipping into no retirement. You should be socking so much money away, because there's so many opportunities out here for you, where your retirement shouldn't be something that you even have to be worried about. You should just be adding more to that, as time goes on. So we're gonna keep our eye on it. We'll, let you know as time goes on. But I'm just kind of, today I'm bringing up the state of Black America right now. A lot, is so much going on. We can't really see the forest from the trees. A lot is happening to us internally that we're not going to really understand or realize has occurred until years from now. So you got to be paying attention. You got to keep your nose to the street. That way you understand what's going on and you can act accordingly. I'm gonna keep bringing it to you, but I'm new to this, so I don't have thousands, hundreds of thousands of folks who I can be preaching this to. But we're gonna keep doing what we do, and hopefully the ones who are listening can understand that you got to pay attention to what's going on. You can't just be one that just sticking your head in the covers, just hoping that it all goes away, or one day you're going to look up and things will be back to normal. It's not going back to normal. The climate is the climate. All the things that are being undone, all the carnage that's occurring, it's going to take a long time, to get things where we feel like we might be back to some kind of normalcy, if that could ever happen. So we got to play the game as they roll out the balls. You got to be able pause. You got to be able to adapt and make things happen. Ain't no, what I'm saying? You can't be worried about what others are thinking. You can't be worried about, should I do this? You got to just get into this, because if not, you're going to be left behind. If it ain't AI, it's going to just be something that's going, or, folks just don't think you deserve to actually even be here, more or less to be, trying to build generational wealth for you and your family. That's not what they are looking for us to be doing. They see that we've made so many leaps and bounds over the year, and now they're staring at the most millionaires, the most, we even got billionaires now. We got so many African Americans or people of color who's building businesses, who's generating wealth at a clip that has never ever occurred before. So don't think that they don't see that and don't understand that, if given an opportunity, we're going to take full advantage of it, and we're going to find ourselves on top. So when it comes to this money game, that's the one thing that they're not trying to allow us to be a part of. So we got to just be strategic, keep our heads down, and stop telling everybody what it is that you're doing, and just get up and get it done. And then, stack them chips and do the things that you're supposed to do to be able to not only get the money, but to maintain the money at the same time. All right. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right. So we're going to keep this going because it's going. No, that's not it. No, that's what we just talked about. All right. Nope, 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 nope. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Where's that at? So you did that. All right. Okay, so August 2025. Let's just take that off. August 2025 jobs report raised serious concern for Black workers as unemployment hit its highest level since 2021. The Black unemployment rate rose to 7.5% compared to the national average of 4.3%. That's just crazy work, for real, for real. All right, I gotta find. Okay, so there we go. Um, Economists caution that the gap is not just a passing trend. History shows that increases in Black unemployment often signals broader weaknesses in the job market. Black women have been hit especially hard, largely due to federal job cuts. Since early 2025, over 300,000 Black women have lost work, sparking lawmakers like Representative Ayanna Presley to call on the Federal Reserve to step in. The steep unemployment rate among Black teenagers adds to the concern, pointing to deep-rooted barriers for young workers trying to enter the job market and build stable careers. The impact isn't limited to individuals and families. Rising unemployment within Black communities can weaken consumer spending, strain local economies, and widen inequality during economic slowdowns. Many analysts believe the Federal Reserve may eventually move towards cutting rates to help steady the labor market. If left unaddressed, today's troubling unemployment figures could grow into a much larger economic crisis in the future. Stores trying to fight theft by locking products behind glasses may be hurting themselves more than helping. According to new research, a recent Numerator survey of over 5,000 U.S. shoppers found that 6 in 10 frequently run into locked merchandise, right? That's crazy when you think about it. We're to the point now where things have to be locked up. Um, you know. So, but anyway, a recent Numerator survey of over 5,000 U.S. shoppers found that 6 in 10 frequently run into locked merchandise. More than a quarter said the inconvenience led them to leave without buying or head to another store. If you have to wait around for an employee to leave without buying or unlock something as cheap as $5 shampoo, many shoppers simply won't bother, explained Numerator analyst Mark Johnson. The strategy stems from a sharp 93% jump in shoplifting between 2019 and 2024. I'm going to say that again. The strategy stems from a sharp 93% jump in shoplifting between 2019 and 2024. But the move is proven costly. Industry data estimates retailers lost about $338 million in sales in the first part of 2024 because customers walked away from locked items. The Loss Prevention Research Council also reported that sales of secured products dropped 15 to 25% on average as frustrated shoppers shift to online options like Amazon, where access is easier Big chains such as Walmart and CVS are experimenting with alternatives, including app based systems that allow shoppers to unlock items themselves, right? Okay, so, once again, you're out here, taking things that don't belong to you, and it's all in the name of not, being able to provide for you and your family. So you figure, let me just go out here and take stuff. I I'm totally against that. I don't care how desperate you get. We gotta stop thinking that the easy way, because you steal some one day, then eventually you don't have a way to continue, doing the things that you need to do to get the things that you're out here actually stealing. At some point, that's gonna catch up with you. At some point, you're gonna find yourself behind bars. You have a record. It's just gonna be more of an insult to injury. So we gotta stop the criminal minded, thoughts that we're having because of our lack of. We got to figure out ways to not, be in a situation where you're going to have a lack of, right? If you're able to do that, then you're going to find yourself, not in these kind of situations, because yeah, that's a pretty big number when you're saying like 34 million, in things that have been, stolen from these different companies. Now they're locking them up with chains. You saw that. Look at this. This is crazy. This is what we're up against because of the economy, because of us not being able to do what we need to do to be able to provide the things that we need. So, the majority of us, not the majority, but whoever is out here doing these type of things, they're finding it, in their minds, a way to get back at these so-called companies. They just go in and take whatever it is that they want. But these companies are going to fight back. They're not going to keep losing millions because you want to steal shit. Then it's not going to do that. So you're going to end up finding yourselves with records. You're going to end up putting yourself deeper in the hole because you just didn't take the. I don't get it. Why don't we just sit down and figure out a way to do things? It's not that difficult, folks. I promise you. Just sit your backside down with some like-minded individuals and come up with a way to be able to provide some form of income for you and your family. That's what you got to do. To stealing, you end up taking yourself away from the family. Then what, right? So we got to come up with better alternatives to handle what's going on out here in the world than to just run into these places and just start taking things, running out, and you and a bunch of your folks, running into different high-end stores. At some point, we're going to, run into situations where they're going to start doing things to us that's going to, really set us back big time. Even if that means new laws, you get caught up in this kind of thing, you're gonna look at some maximum sentencing, or you're gonna really just start, you know, shooting us and doing the things that you don't think that is going to ever occur, but we're going to look up and folks going to be running out. Next thing you know, bullets are going to be flying because folks is tired of you taking their items. You're costing them millions of dollars, and all they're doing is what they've been able to sit down and come up with, and now they're able to provide a service or a product. You need to look at that and turn around and do the same thing, to copy what is already being done. That's the beautiful thing about the world. You can literally look at certain things and just duplicate it in your own way. If you're working for somebody, you're working for a company, it's something that you love to do, and you've been there for a while, you've learned the ins and outs. Don't be afraid to get out there and get on your own and be competition to the person that you was just a month ago, 2 months ago, actually working for. You can be competition to these corporate companies. That's what the American dream is all about. So don't be afraid to step out there on faith and handle your business. All right. All right, let's keep it moving. We'll keep an eye on that because that's just, something's going to happen that's going to, have us all scratching our heads on why did we do that? Why were we continuing to do that when all we had to do was just figure things out and, be silent about it, make our money, build our communities, build our households, and keep it moving, not be paying attention to all the rest of this craziness. All right, let's keep it moving. Social Security. I know my folks gonna want to know about this. Okay. So, Social Security could face insolvency by 2032, forcing policymakers to confront politically sensitive fixes such as raising the retirement age, adjusting benefit caps, or increasing taxes. Commissioner Frank Biziano told Fox Business that everything's being considered as the system struggles with the strain of an aging population. The Congressional Budget Office projects that the Social Security population will grow from 342 million in 2024 to 383 million by 2054, with future growth driven primarily by immigration. With fertility rates declining, Biziano said future retirees will likely face a different set of rules than today's beneficiaries. He noted that the current retirement age of 65 and the 175,000 earning caps could both be adjusted. While stressing that insolvency is still years away, Biziano framed the issue as solvable. 8 years is a long time away. The White House has not commented on whether the eligibility age may be risen. Despite the long-term concerns, retirements are currently helping stabilize the U.S. labor market. The unemployment rate has held near 4.3%, even with weak job growth, as a surge in baby boomer retirements reduces the number of job seekers. Economic Economists warn, however, that the same demographic shift will drag on labor force growth in the years ahead. So, Social Security is just one of those things that I don't know a whole bunch about. I just figured that, everybody would have the same shot at it. I get that the baby boomers are retiring right now at a rampant pace. But at the same time, I don't understand why they're trying to tinker with it to the point where folks are shaking in their boots about it. Because a lot of times this is a lifeline for folks after they retire. Because once again, folks aren't putting money away. Folks aren't investing. So when you reach retirement age, you're sitting there looking at no money in savings, no money in investments, and you're back to it's kind of almost like, I don't want to say it's a Ponzi scheme because that's not the case, because people are working and money is going into it. But it's like one of those things where, you've been putting money in it forever, and then you get to retirement age, and that's really the only thing that you have to live off of. When you've had a whole lifetime to, put away, monies, stack monies, invest in different things. So when you reach that age of retirement, Social Security is just, it's just another revenue stream that you have coming in as a retiree. But you've done some things to the point where you may have built a real estate portfolio that's paying you, a number of dollars a month. You may have invested in some stocks that can, pay you a number of dollars every month. So when you retire, you can retire comfortably because you took care of the business on the front end and you just wasn't a worker bee all your life. And then it's retirement time. Now you got to set budget of monies that's coming in every month, and you got to live according to that. I don't want to live like that when I retire. So anything that I need to do from this point forward and in the past, I want to make sure that when I retire, I can live comfortably. I think we all should do that. And it's not that hard. You can start right now. You don't have to worry about, you know, what do I need to do? I can't do it. I'm older now. I just got to kind of wait and bank on Social Security. No, you can start investing right now. You don't have to, wait to get to that point and then realize that, man, if I would have just, man, if I would have just, man, if I would have just, at that point it's too late. You're stuck, and ain't nobody about to hire you because you're too old. You ain't really trying to go to work because you're older, and as we get older, things start to slow down for us in a number of different ways. So you gotta have a plan. You and whoever gotta have a systematic plan that by the time you get ready to hang it up, you socked away enough money, or you got enough money coming in regularly because of what you built, where you can you can have a comfortable retirement, not having to worry about anything. Should be everybody's goal. So we'll keep our eye on the Social Security thing. We ain't gonna have to really keep much of an eye, because if they tinker with it too much, you're gonna see the world just act a fool. Because nobody, these retirees, especially these baby boomers, they're not about to be trying to hear you're taking away, part of their livelihood in their retirement stages of their life. So this is going to be an interesting, I think, more fireworks to come on that. So we'll keep our eye on it and we'll let you know. All right, let's keep it moving, y'all. I thought we should just kind of speak about this. We ain't gonna talk about it much, but the Wayne State University and Detroit Public School community districts have teamed up to help more Detroit students go to college. Their new program, Warriors on the Rise, gives automatic admissions to Wayne State for DPSCD students who keep at least a 3-point GPA and finish key English and math classes. The program is free, and it offers more than just admissions. Students get year round support like career mentoring, college prep workshops, academic advising, and financial aid help. Families can also get transportation support, free or discounted event tickets, and chances for dual enrollment classes. Wayne State says the goal is to remove barriers so students can focus on learning instead of worrying about applications. All right. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that, bring that up a little bit, because I'm in Michigan. If we do have some folks who's paying attention, and they're in the Detroit area, and they're looking at, don't have a way to pay for college, want to go to college. This is Wayne State is a good school. This is a way that, some of those individuals that may be out there looking for an alternative way to be able to help their, sons or daughters get to the next level of education. This could be a foolproof way of you being able to do that. So we'll keep you informed of it as things continue to, as people start to talk about this more and more information comes forth. I'll be keeping my eye out, because this is a great opportunity for individuals who, taking care of their business in the classroom, but they're looking at no way, based off of their family income, that they're going to be able to afford college. So get your grades up, handle your business in the classroom, make sure you're taking the proper Englishes, proper maths, and there's a pathway for you to be able to go to college for free. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that. Additional information that comes forward, we'll let you guys know. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right. All right. So I don't know what's going on in Houston, but tragedy has hit another college campus. A 20-year-old junior at the University of Houston in Texas, Jade Sage McKissick, has been found dead after unalive after being reported missing last week. Jane was last seen on September 11th at the LA Burgers and Daiquiris located near campus. Her body was discovered in a body of water at 4998 Spur 5 on Monday, September 15th, and was identified by Harris County Medical Examiner officials Thursday, September 18th. According to the Houston Police Department spokesman, Shay Awanjan, a cause of death has not yet been determined. Jade was studying strategic communication and advertising at the University of Houston. I don't really know what's going on in Houston. I just want to keep her photo up. RIP to her and her family. It's just sad, and it just seems like a couple black folks are coming to their demise, and nobody really understands why. We're going to talk about another young guy down in Mississippi here shortly that was unalived, or they're saying he unalived himself, but the circumstances surrounding the situation is just a little, so it's suspect at the least. And I think in Houston, a couple other folks have, come up missing and, able to be found fairly quickly, and they're finding them in situations that they shouldn't have been in, and nobody has any kind of answers as of yet. So we'll definitely keep our eyes glued to what's going on with our young folk of color, and why are they coming up missing, and then they're meeting their demise in strange ways. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on what's going on in the world and our young folks coming up missing, because we're just not about to have that. We're going to have to get to the bottom of this some way, somehow. So hopefully police are being honest characters in these situations, and they're just reporting what's actually happening instead of creating false narratives. So we'll keep our eyes on it, and we'll report back as other things occur. But we definitely got our eyes on what's happening to our young folk. Um, eh, we don't like it at all. It's not, becoming, and we're going to be watching, and we're going to be paying attention. If you're out there and you're a young person, be careful. Keep your head on the swivel. Stop, talking to just anybody. Have some form of protection, mace, anything that's legal that you can have to make sure if something happens, you're able to, maybe fend someone off, or, maybe, help you to not be in the situations that you could be in when you're dealing with crazy people out here. All right. We'll keep an eye on it, but God bless her and her family. Nothing but prayers to them. Let's keep it moving, folks. Sad. All right. So let's talk about this. So the FAMU Board of Trustee, and that's the board that they brought the MAGA lady on board to, approves 15% out-of-state tuition increase for the fall, and then tuition hike impacts 24% of the current student body. So the decision made unanimously on September 18th follows a directive from the Florida Board of Governors requiring state university to raise non-resident tuition by 10% in 2025 and 15% in 2026, because FAMU missed the deadline to notify students of 2025 increase. Only the 2026 hike will take effect. Undergraduates out-of-state tuition will rise from $549 to $606 per credit hour. Graduate rates from 1,022 to 1,110, and law school rates from 1,097 to $1,189. The increase impacts about 24% of FAMU's student body, including international students. FAMU leaders acknowledge the financial strain the hike may pose, particularly for students from major recruiting areas like Atlanta. Alumni chapters pledged to expand scholarship support, while student body president Zyla Bryant welcomed the advance notice but urged the university to prioritize comparisons with other HBCUs rather than just the state system. The move makes FAMU's first tuition change since 2013, aligning it with other Florida university adjusting fees after more than a decade of stability. Okay, so FAMU, HBCU, rate hikes. I'm not going to be too crazy about this because I know the university has to make money. Um, and I get it. At some point, you can't just keep, you would hope that tuition would be going down, but just based off of the world that we in, tuition hikes are, all across the board. So, once again, you're gonna have to take a real good, look at these universities. So many of them. FAMU may not be your choice because of, things of this nature. It is a great school, but it was once known as being an affordable school. But I get it. You got different folks in charge now. It seems like they, want to compete with larger Florida schools outside of HBCUs. And, they feel like raising the dollar amounts, I think, will allow them to, venture off into a different crop of a student. Someone who can afford the tuition. Typically, they're going to come from a education base that will allow them to have success at FAMU. So, although you don't want to see this, you already know some folks are going to be left behind. But as parents, we gotta budget if we want our kids to go to these universities, no matter what, no matter where. You're gonna have to really budget these dollars to make sure that you can get your kids through these universities, within the 4 to 5 year allotment time that it typically takes a student to, go to a university and graduate. So it is everything's prices of everything is going up. We just got to be strategic and understand that that's exactly the case. That way we can be prepared when these types of things, occur. So we'll keep our eye on FAMU and other HBCUs and see if they're going to, follow. And if anything comes back, we'll definitely report back and let you know how this change in tuition costs is affecting the students and the parents all across the country. All right. Okay, so let's keep it moving. So, Linda McMahon, the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education, announced a partnership with more than 40 conservative organizations to create programming around civics. They say this programming is meant to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States next year. The department said this coalition will take bold steps to educate, inspire, and mobilize youth toward active and informed citizenship. The American 250 Civic Education Coalition will be led by the American First Policy Institute, a nonprofit conservative group. It includes the late Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, as well as the organization behind Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, and conservative organizations across the country. You know, elections have consequences. That's all I can say about this. And the conservatives have been trying to do stuff like this forever. And now they got somebody in the White House where they can just ram through all the things that they've always wanted to do here in the United States. Have it, more of a lily white, whitewashed of history type of country that we live in. They want to, put forth their morals and values on everyone. They don't want it to be mixed. They don't want a lot of the history to be told. So they're doing things like this. They're bringing their ideologies into the school systems now, and the next generation of kids, they're going to be able to experience conservatism at a all-time high. A lot of things are going to be left out of history. It's going to be more of a situation where they're going to paint the world to be well, not just the world, but the United States to be a place of just pureness. They're not going to put forth some of the unfortunate things that has happened as a country, and because of those things, we've grown as a country. I mean, we're still, battling a lot of things that occurred because of those atrocities that occurred, 400 years ago. But if you really take a look at it, everybody that's putting forth, these measures are Caucasian folks. They want the world to look at things from their lenses. They don't want it to be a world of diversity, of different thoughts, of different cultures. But the amazing thing about what they're doing is, they still like to enjoy other folks' culture because their culture is a culture of, a lot of times craziness, a lot of time boredness. And in order for them to really be able to experience life and culture, they have to come into other folks' worlds, from the foods, to the attire, to the music, you name it. Without others, they wouldn't be able to enjoy the world that they really and truly understand has been provided from it being a world of mixed cultures, or multicultural worlds where they figure, let's try to do away with that. Let's try to shape our kids and their kids in the mind frame of our ideology. But what they fail to realize is that they can do all of this all they want to, but they're not going to be in charge forever. And once folks is at this point, from what I can tell, they're sick of this, and it's time for the tables to be turned, then they're going to just be looking crazy because all this work, just like the work that others have done to have the world more of an equal kind of world, they're going to just come in and do away with a lot of this craziness and then they're going to be able to really tell the true story of America instead of trying to whitewash it. So we'll keep our eyes on Miss WWE, WWF, whatever the hell she was, and see what actually comes about, Project 2025 and Turning Point USA and all this, world ideology that they're trying to bring into our school systems now. I don't think it's going to work because I think kids are going to know better because kids are more a part of the culture than their parents. And I think it's going to be a lot of pushback when they start to realize that because of their parents and these individuals, choices, they're not going to be able to have a world of multicultural culturalism because most of their friends are going to be, people of color. Most of the things that they like to do, most of the music, most of the just the imaging of America, the kids already, they understand it. So, I think they're setting it up where the kids or the next generation are going to push back, and I think they're going to be the saviors. To be honest with you, although a lot of them are being brainwashed now, and things of that nature, I just think the overall census is going to be the newer generation are going to be more, you know, acceptable of each other compared to the ones who are making these laws, and putting forth these, specific ideologies that they feel should be the ideology of the world, instead of allowing people to have their own thoughts, their own, ways of living, as long as they're not hurting anybody, as long as they're not, putting forth their style of living, in a way that is affecting other folks who don't, necessarily believe in their styles of living, but can respect them, as well. So we'll keep our eyes on. We'll let you know, what's going on with that at some point here as time goes on. I think that's going to be, a situation where people are going to push back. So we'll see what happens. All right. Okay. Let's keep it moving. All right, so we talked about this a while back, so I'm just bringing it back to the forefront. But Uncle Nearest may be heading towards bankruptcy as the legal battle intensifies. Court records reveal that Philip G. Young Jr., appointed as receiver in August, has brought in Newpoint Advisor Corporation to review the company's financial stability. Young now holds the power to file for bankruptcy if the situation requires it. To explore potential asset sales, consultants have been hired to evaluate Uncle Nearest holdings outside its core business. Thoroughbred Spirits Group is advising on operation, while Belcher, Sykes, and Harrington will provide legal expertise in the alcohol beverage sector. The lawsuit, first filed in late July by Farm Credit Mid America (PCA), accuses founders Fawn and Keith Weaver of defaulting on more than 108 million dollars in loans. Farm Credit further alleges the company overstated the value of its whiskey barrels by at least 24 million, dollars, which were pledged as collateral. These claims have fueled doubts about the accuracy of Uncle Near's financial statements and its aggressive growth strategy. In addition, Farm Credit is disputing Weaver's purchase of a cognac distillery in France and a home in Martha's Vineyard, arguing that the transactions amount is misuse of funds. To address those concerns, Young has enlisted a French law firm to handle the distillery and another to oversee the Massachusetts property. The Weavers, however, argue that a former executive committed fraud during his time at the company and that they should not be held responsible for his actions. The case is still moving forward in the Tennessee Eastern District Courts. I mean, this is just crazy. I don't see no other liquor company out there that's going through this, but this black-owned liquor company that was basically, built on the legacy of a free slave who, formerly inspired Jack Daniels. And in some cases, they say Jack Daniels may have took the recipe. I don't know, allegedly, what happened, back then. But at the same time, you as black folk, when you get things like this, and you know that this can, set the match, for future folks to come behind you, then I don't understand why do we get ourselves in situations where when we get access to all kind of monies and we got stable companies, we want to go out and do, F ish, buying car or whatever homes in Martha Vineyard, just trying to keep up with the Joneses. I don't get it. these are generational companies, and 108 million is not a lot of money when you really think about, the actual opportunities that a company like this is able to be a part of, and then you got the folks that's running it, just running it into the ground for their own, selfish reasons. And then, you're lying about the books, you're cooking the books. Like, these folks, once again, these folks don't want you to have no liquor company of this massive, just potential wealth that it could create. They don't want this. So they're going to have you under a microfine glass. That's just what they're going to do. And just, you should be able to just look around and understand that, number one, it ain't too many of us that's in the space. And number two, ain't nobody else being raked over the coal about their financing but this particular black owned, liquor company. Because if you really get into it and understand, when you have this level of success, or the potential level of success, they're coming for you. You should already know all this are going to happen. They'll give you the money as if they don't know that you really don't qualify, just so they can turn around and come back and take it away from you. But we don't pay attention. You see these people on TV, you see them, and you think, man, these are great business people. They're well spoken, but behind the scenes, they're doing fuckery. It's just so sad that this particular company is about to have to go into bankruptcy, have a black mark on it, and it's all because of selfish reasons. It's all because of cooking books and buying, cognac, whatever, in France, and just trying to, if that was a play to potentially bring, more type of beverages up under the umbrella, that's one thing. But it sounds like that wasn't the case. It sounded like that was something that occurred in a way that's just unnecessary, to the point where it has to be investigated. And then the home in Martha Vineyards has to be investigated. Then 21 million has to be investigated, because they're thinking you're cooking the books. They got to bring in different agencies to look over, your financial. They're not doing that to anybody else. They're not doing that to, you know, Hennessy or Jack Daniels, or whatever the case may be. What other liquor companies that's out there? They're not doing that to them. They're doing that to you, because you've given them the end to be able to come and rake you over the coals like they're raking you over the coals. So I don't know. It's just disappointing. We'll keep our eye on it. We'll let you know as things, continue to involve in this case. They're letting us know what's happening at every turn. So I just want to keep talking about it and keep following it, because I want to see what the end results are. This is a major liquor company that we all was jumping up, clicking our heels about not even a couple years ago. Commercials, we social media posts. We're just thinking that, this is a great company, nothing but, upturn on it into the future. And we just always sitting back admiring it from afar, not knowing that behind the scenes, it was just a bunch of fuckery going on. So we'll keep watching it. We'll let you know as time goes on, like what is actually happening. All right. Okay, let's keep it moving. All right. Let's I RIP my guy Trey. Troubling details are coming out in the case of 21-year-old Delta State University student Damar Trey Reed, whose body was discovered on campus September 15th. What's raising serious concern is the fact that authorities have given conflicting accounts about where Trey's body was found. According to Trey's family, Grenada County Sheriff's deputies came to their home around 9:15 a.m. and informed them that Trey had been found dead in his dead dorm room in his bed. But only hours later, Delta State University police chief stated publicly that Trey's body was actually discovered hanging from a tree in the middle of campus at 7:05 a.m. This contradiction has left the Reed family devastated and demanding clarity. Their attorney, Vanessa Jones, criticized both the university and county officials for failing to communicate directly with the family, while the media learned details before they did. The family is now calling for the release of all surveillance footage from campus and has requested an independent autopsy. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump has joined the family, along with U.S. Representative Benny Thompson, who urged the Department of Justice and FBI to investigate. All right, come on now, y'all. We all know this is a bunch of BS. Number one, it's in Mississippi. We all know what's been happening in Mississippi time and time again. Their mantra is hanging. In the past, back in the day, civil rights time, hanging was like tying your shoes in Mississippi. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're going to have this particular young man hanging from a tree in the middle of campus. And then you have the actual white police, I'm sure, arrive at this young man's parents' house and tell them that he passed away in his bed. And then next thing you know, they get a call from the school, and the sheriff there at the university tells them that their son was found hanging from a tree in the middle of campus. Come on now, people. This is just too much. No, this young man, how is he, and why would he do that? Like, this man, from what I can tell, just hearing different accounts, he was young, he was, handling his business. It's just sad. It's so sad. So I'm assuming they got an independent investigation going on. They got, Ben Crump and them on the case. We got to get to the bottom of this. If something happened where this young man unalived himself in such a dramatic way, we need to know that. But if it's something fishy going on behind the scenes, we need to know that as well. There's cameras everywhere. So you mean to tell me ain't no cameras on campus that would be able to see this young man actually getting up in a tree with a rope and actually hanging himself from the tree? Come on now, man. I just feel sorry for him, his family. RIP to him. Much prayers to the family. We'll definitely keep our eye on it, because the mainstream media are, pretty much, pushing this under the rug. Ain't much is being said outside of maybe a couple scattered reports about this. But this is wild. You got them in Houston, and you got them in Mississippi, all southern states, or, Republican type of states, that, these types of things are just out of the blue happening to our young Black folks. So we got to pay attention to this, folks, and we got to, let it be known that we're not buying this BS that they're trying to deliver to us. Hopefully his parents is fighting with everything that they got to get to the bottom of this, because it needs to happen. All right, so that is the end of our our actual reporting on the different things that's going on out there, in the world. We usually like to do about 10 to 11, hot topics, so to speak. I pick them. I just kind of watch throughout the week, and as things pop up that I think might be interesting or beneficial to us, I like to bring those to the forefront. But anyway, let's keep it moving. We're going to talk about our four new viral mortgage and real estate hacks. um, let's talk about number one, the Airbnb split strategies. So partner with another investor to co-own a duplex or triplex. You manage one unit as a short-term rental. They manage a unit for a long-term tenant, and this diversifies income and protect against seasonal swings. All right, so that's hack number one. Hack number two, the construction draw hack. Instead of paying contractors up front, negotiate milestone based draws tied to lender inspections. Protects your capital and keeps projects on schedule. That's a big one, folks. Because the construction piece is really the main piece when it comes to, rehabbing these projects. And you may not have enough money to just give to a contractor up front, and then you end up potentially running into them running off with your money. So to be able to have them do the work, and as you get paid, you pay them. This is how you should do it for sure. All right. So invisible value added. Invest in hidden upgrades like tankless water heaters or spray foam installations. Tenants will pay a rent premium for lower utility bills without expensive cosmetic overhauls. All right. And then number four, and our last viral mortgage and real estate hack is title company loyalty play. Build long term relationships with a single title company. Many offer loyalty discounts, faster closings, and even co marketing funds for repeat investors. Yeah, we just had Stewart Title as our, as we rolled out last show. They were the company that we did our deep dive on. So yeah, build relationships with these title companies and construction companies. We're getting ready to do our deep dive here in a second on Sachse Construction. So every time we're here, we're going to kind of try to bring a different, aspect of the real estate game to the table and do deep dives so you can get a better understanding of where they would actually fit into your overall, team that you're building. At least if not the companies that I'm bringing to the forefront, at least you'll have the knowledge base and understanding of what it needs to look like when you decide to choose a company. All right. So we're going to do that here. We're going to bring our company up to the board. Let's see here. Let's me share my screen with you guys. Da 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 da. Okay. There we go. All right, so I'm going to come down. I don't mean to be talking.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cracking open the blueprint, not of a building, but of a company, Sachse Construction. They started back in 91.
Right, a major national player in construction management and general contracting.
Exactly. And the big question we're tackling is how does a company that builds so much stuff everywhere maintain quality? It seems like a huge challenge.
It really is. I mean, we're talking millions of square feet built across all 50 US states, plus Canada and Puerto Rico, too.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you're operating at that kind of scale with all those different places and rules, just being technically good, well, it's not enough. It has to be something deeper, right? Something internal.
Yeah, that internal architecture, as you put it, their stated goal, get this, is to be the most respected and trusted partner. That's bold.
Very bold.
So for you listening, our mission here is to really pull apart how they try to achieve that. We want to find those specific, actionable cultural bits. They even have this unique internal language, these rayisms we'll get into, that turn that big claim into, actual performance on the ground every day.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the basics, like what they build and where. The sheer range is pretty telling.
It is. Office buildings, retail spaces, huge apartment complexes, industrial sites, hotels, hospitals.
Restaurants, schools, community centers, I mean, the list goes on. It really shows adaptability.
Right. Being able to execute well in all those different market sectors. It suggests their core processes have to be super solid, but also flexible.
Definitely. And their services, they go way beyond just, basic general contracting.
Yeah, they offer construction management, which sounds like a much more collaborative thing, using historical data right from the start to manage costs.
Right, kind of building that trust early. And then there's the general contracting side, which seems focused on uh, efficiency,
Mhm.
planning, mobilizing their network of partners across the country. That national network is key.
A huge asset, I bet.
Absolutely. But what I find really interesting is where they've developed these like specialized services to tackle really specific, tricky problems.
Like tenant coordination.
Exactly. Think about a new mall or office building, getting all those different tenants, shops, restaurants, whatever moved in, compliant, designs approved, on schedule. It's incredibly complex.
Total headache, usually.
Right. So Saxy steps in to actively manage all that using their own software, apparently. That takes a massive burden off the client.
That makes sense. And it
Yeah.
sounds like they apply that same systematic thinking to disasters too, their reconstruction services.
Yeah, it's not just fixing things, it's about rapidly rebuilding after, say, a fire or flood. They focus hard on accurate budgeting, and this is crucial working directly with the insurance
Yeah,
companies.
to speed things up.
Precisely, smooth out that recovery process.
And they seem pretty forward thinking on tech and sustainability as well, not just checking boxes.
No, it seems strategic. They have dedicated teams for innovation and technology. They're using things like BIM building, information modeling, and these integrated platforms like PlanGrid and Ignite for real time site management.
So data and oversight across all projects. That helps with consistency, I guess.
It provides the framework, yeah. But tech alone doesn't guarantee consistency at scale, especially in construction. You need the people, the culture to really buy in and execute.
Which brings us nicely to their core philosophy. They stated simply, there are no shortcuts to excellence.
A classic line.
It is.
Hmm.
And it underpins their 4 core values. Want to run through them?
Sure, they are. Do the right thing, have passion and enthusiasm, pursue excellence by constantly raising the bar, and do whatever it takes.
Okay, I respect those. But honestly, do the right thing. You see that everywhere on posters, on websites.
True, it can feel a bit generic.
So how does a company like Sachse make that real? How do they make sure it actually guides decisions for, I don't know, a site supervisor in Phoenix or a project manager in Boston? It can't just be a slogan.
And that, I think, is exactly why they have this next layer, these rayisms, that's their term.
Right, the Rayisms.
These are the unique internal sayings, memorable phrases that basically translate the big values into practical, everyday actions and accountability. They create a shared language.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical, potentially useful for anyone listening. Let's look at some. How about the ones focused on dealing with problems? Like big problems were once little problems.
That sounds simple, but in construction, it's huge. Catching a small issue early, a slight schedule slip, a minor design clash, a supply delay can literally save millions later on.
Right, avoiding rework or massive delays.
Exactly. So that rayism isn't just a nice thought, it's an operational command. It directly links paying attention to the culture, to that phrase, with actually saving money and keeping the project on track.
So cultural compliance becomes risk mitigation. Interesting. What about communication? They have one. Don't hide behind email.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's paired with another one: deliver solutions, not problems.
Oh, okay.
Think about that. Deliver solutions, not problems. That's tough, isn't it? It stops people from just firing off an email saying, hey, we have an issue.
Right, just dumping the problem on someone else's lap.
It forces them to pause, think, analyze, and actually come up with options before they even raise the issue. Imagine the time that saves managers.
Yeah, cutting out endless back and forth emails. Okay, that makes operational sense. What about the client relationship side? They seem very focused on perception. They have this saying, if they like the cook, they'll like the food.
Huh, I like that one. It's about the human element, isn't it? It acknowledges that the client's experience, their trust in the people running the project, heavily colors how they feel about the final product.
Even if there were some minor hiccups along the way.
Exactly. If they trust the cook, the project team, They're more likely to feel good about the food, the finished building.
And that connects to another one. The last 1% is all the client remembers.
Ooh, that's a good one too. It puts intense focus on the very end of the project. The closeout, the final checklist, the handover, making sure that last impression is perfect.
No lingering messy details or admin headaches.
Right, because that final interaction can sour the whole experience if it's not handled well. And they even highlight this in client feedback, right? Didn't GAP mention something about partnership?
Yeah, exactly. A testimonial from GAP Inc. specifically called out the value of the partnership they felt they had with the Sachse team. So it's not just talk,
And these ideas seem to apply internally too. There's make the perfect pass.
like in sports.
Yeah, clearly a metaphor for teamwork, setting up your colleagues for success, ensuring smooth handoffs between departments or phases.
Makes sense. And also, everyone is a client.
Right. Meaning, treat your internal colleagues, accounting, estimating, whoever, with the same respect and service level you'd give an external paying client. That helps break down internal silos.
They also have some interesting ones about attitude, like water the green spot.
Hmm. What do you think that means? Focusing energy where things are already growing.
Yeah, I think so. Focusing on what's working well, amplifying successes rather than just dwelling on problems or negatives all the time. Kind of a positive reinforcement loop.
That's interesting. And it contrasts sharply with another one, no done buts.
Ah, okay, that's pretty direct.
It is absolutely no excuses. It shuts down any attempt to say, yeah, we got it done, but it demands full accountability for the outcome, period.
So all these little phrases, these rayisms, they really weave together to reinforce this culture of excellence and accountability.
And it all ladders up to their core understanding, which they also state. All we have is our reputation. These rayisms are the daily tools they use consciously to build and protect that reputation.
Okay, let's pull back a bit and look at the final layer here. There are 5 obsessions. This tells us where the company directs its focus, its energy.
Right. The list is customers, feedback, innovation, team members, and training.
What jumps out at you there?
Well, the explicit focus on internal elements as strategic pillars, like team members. In construction, finding and keeping top talent is a massive challenge.
Huge. Always has been.
So, by making team members an obsession, they're not just being nice, it's a strategic move to protect their key asset. They say they hire the industry's top talent and they focus on keeping them with benefits and perks. That's smart business defense.
And that links directly to the feedback obsession, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They say we thrive on feedback because, well, how else do you grow? How do you improve? They seem to actively ask for it, even the tough stuff.
Yeah, they apparently ask clients directly, what did we do well and what could we have done better? Even if the project went great. That takes confidence.
It does. And it fuels that constantly raising the bar value we talked about earlier. It's not just a slogan if you're actively seeking out ways to get better.
So that continuous improvement mindset then flows into how they actually interact with clients day to day, which they define in their principles of service.
Right. These are the specific behaviors they expect. It's very detailed. It starts right at the beginning, one shot at a first impression.
And presentation matters.
Yeah.
So setting the stage properly.
Exactly. And then it dives deep into soft skills, which is interesting for a construction firm. They explicitly list be an active listener, be humble.
Hmm. Humility isn't always the first word you associate with big construction projects.
Maybe not, but it's crucial for building trust. And they also emphasize having the personal touch. It shows they get that even huge national projects are built on individual relationships.
Yeah, it's still a people business at the end of the day.
Totally. And then they bring back that urgency we saw in the Rayisms with principles like have a sense of urgency. Also, set expectations
Yeah.
clearly right up front.
Super important for avoiding misunderstandings later.
Definitely. And the final piece follow up plus follow through, non negotiable.
All right, we back. All right, so that was Sachse Construction. A lot of good information there. They do retail centers, high-rise apartments. They do a lot of reshaping of skylines. So we want to just kind of bring them up, get a little, details on what the construction piece usually looks like, in this world that we're in. And they're definitely one of those companies that you would want to take a look at, or at least peruse their website. So if you're dealing with construction folks, you will actually have, um, sorry about that, you will actually have an actual company that you can kind of look at before you start trying to deal with whatever company you're dealing with in your local towns or city states, wherever it is that you're at. All right, so that's gonna be the end of the show, folks. I be hating to go, but we gotta go. You know, this is what we do. We just come up, we drop game on you. You may not be paying attention right now, but at some point, I'm not going nowhere. So, we're gonna get a community of folks here. Right now, we're just reporting. We're just giving away game. We're just this is kind of like my outlet, my therapy session. A way for me to get the stuff that I have on my mind off of my mind and out here into the world, and then I can just move on. I don't have to sit with it. So you know, but this is it, folks, and where real estate meets real talk. That's what we do here. So remember that the economy may be shaky, right? But the right moves in real estate can protect your wealth and build your legacy, right? Make sure, guys, to follow, subscribe, and share this episode, right? Once again, make sure you follow, subscribe, and share this episode on the different platforms that we're on. I know we're on LinkedIn. We go live on LinkedIn. We go live on YouTube, and then we go live on Facebook. So if you're in any one of those places, like, subscribe, and share with all your family and friends, because there's a lot of information. Just because you see this black face on here don't mean that we got less information for you. If anything, this particular black face, I've seen it, did it. When it comes to this finance world, when it comes to this mortgage world, it's not going to be much that I haven't seen, and it's not going to be much that I haven't done. Multi-million dollar deals, all different strip malls, multifamily, single families, you name it. We've been hotels, restaurants. I've had my hands in it all. So, although we talk about different things when it comes to just the day-to-day stuff, don't get it twisted. You're getting mortgage hacks. You're getting deep dives on major companies. You're getting interviews from major players. So right now, it may just seem like me just up here running my mouth, but at the end of the day, I'm giving you a ton of games. So until the next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and stay in this game. You know what I'm saying? Stay in the game. It's a lot of stuff that you can be doing via real estate, via finance. You just got to figure out exactly what that is, and then wrap your mind and your arms around it, and go make sure you get it done. So until the next time, folks, I wish you nothing but well wishes, nothing but success, and go out there and make it happen, man. Don't take any wooden nickels, as my grandma used to say, you know. But until we see each other again next Tuesday, nothing but love. I'm out. Peace.